Hey parents, welcome back to part 2 to this series here at the Nurturing Parent Podcast. So for this week, we are giving you part 2 to the common phrases that we should avoid as parents. And don't worry, we all do these things. That's why we're here sharing this information with you. So last week we gave you some of my favorite common phrases. Not my favorite because I hate saying them and I know I can do better. But I learned a lot and I've been practicing. And so this week we are going to give you these are more questions that we ask our kids that might be rhetorical questions. And one thing that I do know is don't ask the question if you're not willing to accept the answer. So we'll dive into that more in this week's episode and hope that you get an abundance of knowledge and some better ways that we can approach these situations with our littles. So if you're ready for that, stay tuned and let's dive into this week's episode.
Hey, Mama, welcome to the Nurturing Parent Podcast. Do you want to end the constant battles for bath time? Do you find yourself emotionally exhausted at the end of the day? Do you wake up with big hopes for a smooth day of fun with your little ones, only to face an early morning meltdown because you peeled their banana the wrong way?
Silly you.
Silly you.
Hey, I'm Sareena. I'm a mama of 2 little ones, and as a new mama, I constantly questioned myself. I wanted to make sure I was raising respectful kids while also building a strong bond with them. But I discovered that I had to unlearn my ideas that punishment was the way. With Lisa's encouragement, I've been practicing a respectful and gentle parenting approach, which is strengthening our bond as a family.
And hi, I'm Lisa. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an amma. And I have over 40 years of experience in childcare and parent coaching. And I am so excited to share the knowledge I've gained over these years with you.
Together in this podcast, each week we will explore some easy to implement skills you can add to your parenting tool belt to help you create a happy, thriving family.
Common phrases to avoid, part 2.
I love it.
Right?
It sounds like a great commercial, but we're not giving them a commercial. We're giving them an amazing episode again.
It's a whole episode, not just a commercial, about how to avoid which common phrases. Today we're looking at questions to avoid. Yeah. Questions are tricky. They are tricky territory. We're going to look at a few different kinds of questions. We're going to look at why questions. We're going to look at what questions. We're going to look at, do we actually want to ask a question right now, or do we need to make a statement, which is quite a different kettle of fish, ball of wax, whatever you want to use for a metaphor of choice right now. And we're going to look at this tricky little sneaky little phrase called okay, or
Oh yeah.
okay.
That's one of my go-tos. And every time it slips out, I'm like,
Shoot, shoot, shoot. All right, so let's get into it. Last week, one of the common phrases we recommended avoiding was stop crying. So to pull these together as a little bit of a series, I thought we would start with, why are you crying? As the first common question to avoid. What I want to tell you about why questions is that the word why moves our brains out of an emotional state and pulls it into an intellectual zone. It's not possible to feel a feeling and know the answer to why we're feeling it in the same moment. Further, it's not possible for our young children's underdeveloped brains to even know why they're crying. And it's certainly not possible for them to be able to come out of a deep cry or even a little whimper and cry and be able to tell you why. I'm sorry. It's not in their wheelhouse, it's not in their level of ability. So I'm going to ask you a question, Mama Sareena, because you happen to be here with me. Um, and listener, I want you to answer this for yourself. Have you ever had a crying session yourself and had your husband or partner or girlfriend or somebody, a well meaning adult, say, honey, why are you crying? Can you remember a time?
I
Or why are you crying? Why are you crying? It might not be a honey, why are you crying? It might be a why are you crying right now? I've actually had one of those. Yeah. What were you going to say?
well, if I thought about it, it was more like my dad probably saying it to me when I was little. But honestly, I cry in movies all the time. And my husband's like, really? Like, why are you crying? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, do you not just see what happened? Don't you feel the feelings? Like,
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and when we're in those feelings, when we're experiencing those feelings, I find it even challenging as an adult who's really pretty self aware. I'm not perfect, you guys. Never will I ever say I am anywhere near perfect. There's no such thing. We're all human on an experiential journey. And I'm pretty self aware. And if somebody asks me why I'm crying, it's like I kind of go into a little bit of a panic mode, like, oh God, I'm feeling all these feelings. And now I'm supposed to figure out why and be able to say that to you. So we're looking at small children, we're looking at young brains. For a child to be actually questioned, why are you crying? All that does is add stress on top of the emotion or emotions they are already feeling. Not only are they upset and crying about something, now they're being asked to figure out and verbalize what it is and why they're crying. So I don't recommend it, basically. um, why did you do that? Or why would you hit your sister? Why would you throw that toy? Those kinds of why questions kind of do the same thing. They bring us out of that emotion that had us pick up that toy and throw it across the room. And now this annoying person right beside us who's big and towering over us wants to know why we did that. Can you imagine being that small child and what would come up for you as a response to that question?
if I were imagining myself as a small child, I would probably feel more frustrated and want to throw more toys or yell louder or hit harder.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that if you have been a parent who asks the why questions, you may well have seen some of that behavior, right? It escalates. In that moment when our child is upset and they are crying or they are throwing something or they are hitting or pushing or whatever it is, kicking at us, all the things, they are dysregulated. We can't access the part of our brain that has us know the answers when we are dysregulated. We're just in that feeling brain. And that's all that exists for us in that moment.
Right. It's kind of like a rhetorical question.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate being asked rhetorical questions
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
when I'm upset or frustrated. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay, good. Perfect segue because the next bunch of questions are what did you do? What were you thinking? what you're pointing at there, Sareena, is this a question that actually really needs to be asked? Do you already know the answer as the parent or the caregiver? Do you already know the answer? If you do, then I would suggest that it's not a question that wants an answer, but in fact, it's a little bit of a niggle of a blame statement or an interrogation or some kind of an attack that's sort of a little bit masked in a question, like an quote unquote innocent question. Yeah. So that's where your imagined child response was. I'm just going to pick up some more toys and throw them even harder because that's irritating.
Right. I
So
mean,
if you already know the answer, don't ask it as a question. If you want to make a statement, that's different. Toys are not for throwing. Things get broken when stuff gets thrown. It doesn't mean you let the behavior happen. But by asking it as a question, it's just going to cause more irritation and frustration. There was an example a little while ago, Sareena, you shared with me about your daughter putting something in a fan, and you asked, "Why did you do that?" Or I forget
why
exactly.
would you do that?
Why would you do that? Yeah. So now, given that little bit of information, instead of, I don't remember what she said or did. Did she have a response to you?
I don't think so.
It was a
No.
little bit ago that we had that chat.
Oh, maybe she does have one of her go-to responses when I do ask these rhetorical question is because yes.
That's right,
Because yes.
because yes. Okay, I love it. There is the brain that is scrambling for what is the answer? What is the answer? Because yes. Because yes is my answer. Perfect example. So instead of what I want to look at is when your child poked that pencil into the fan, what happened to you as mama that had you say, "Why did you do that?" What was going on inside you?
I mean, I got scared that she was gonna hurt herself or break
I
the
got
fan.
scared that she was going to hurt herself or break the fan. Yeah. Oh, honey, whoa, stop. And then come gently in and hold her hand with the pencil in it and go, "Oh, I got scared. I got scared because poking something in that fan could do two things that wouldn't be great. One, the fan could get broken, or the pencil could get broken, or two, even worse, you could get hurt. Fans are definitely not for touching and definitely not for poking things in. So you give the information, you share what's happening for you in that moment rather than asking that rhetorical, annoying question. Ooh, ooh, whoa, 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 ooh. Yeah, I got scared. And that's going to take a little bit of what we recently talked about with that self awareness that what's happening in my body right now, what's coming up for me. And you might say, "Stop." And that's okay. If there's a danger thing, you can say, "Stop. Don't do that anymore." You can say, "Stop." And sometimes that don't command is going to come out. And we talked about that in a previous episode, but you want to stop a dangerous behavior. Yes. And you it's helpful not to follow it with a rhetorical question. Giving them the information does a couple of things. It teaches them things about their world. Ooh, things get either the fan could get broken, the pencil could get broken. or you could get hurt. There's a lot of good information right there. Fans are not for touching. They're a little bit dangerous. They help us. They move the hot or cold air around, but they're not for touching. And it also models healthy communication styles. You have said already that you can't stand it when people ask you rhetorical questions. And here we are keeping that pattern going, right? With asking our children rhetorical questions. Arr. So funny that we do all these things. So don't ask a question when you actually mean a statement. And that leads into the next piece, which is it's bath time right after dinner instead of, do you want your bath after dinner? When they're not going to get a choice of yes or no, don't ask it as a question. Make a statement. Instead of, can I change your diaper now? As you pick them up to change their diaper and they're squirming and going, diaper, diaper. No, scoop them up and say, oh, diaper time. Don't give them the option to say yes or no. When we ask a question, we need to be willing to accept their answer. So if there isn't a yes or no option, make it a statement instead.
Right. I feel like I find myself doing this when I really don't want to do something. So it's like I'm looking for the excuse, but it's like I'm setting myself up for failure because I don't want to give you a bath right now, but it is bath time. So I'll ask, let's go take a bath,
Mm,
okay? It's time to take a bath, all right? Like, no. But I just said, okay? Like, yes,
right.
no. And so if she says no, why did I ask you if the
Then you
answer
get
is
off the
yes?
hook of giving a bath tonight, right? Is that what you're saying there?
I mean, ideally, I would like to give myself the night off, but bath time has to happen. And then if I'm saying okay, and she says no, or she's gonna start to fight back a little bit, then bath time is probably gonna get pushed off to later, later, later. And then when it's really time for bath, and you don't want to take a bath because I've been asking you for the past half an hour to an hour, and you keep saying no and it's later and now it's really time to like we should have been in bed already and now just
And
setting
now
myself up
I'm
for
more
failure.
tired. You're
Yep.
more tired. We're going to hit the wall of melting down. Oh my gosh. Yes. Perfect scenario. Perfect storm.
Yeah, or I hear my
So,
husband when he's in charge of bath time and I'll hear him say, "Let's go take a bath, okay?" And I'm like, "Shh, no, not okay. Don't say okay." But I'll do it. But when I catch him doing it, I'm like, shh, stop it. It's bath time and that's it.
yeah. And so that's a good thing to pull on if your child is resisting bath time, for example, or leaving the playground, for example, or stopping playing with toys because it's time to get ready to go out or go to bed or whatever it is. You can draw on your own experience of resistance in yourself as the parent, as an adult, as another human being. You can draw on your experience and you can say, oh, wow, it's bath time already. Sometimes I just don't feel like bath time, and just give them that. I don't want a bath either, Mama. I know you don't want a bath either. And we're going to go together and just not feel that excited about bath time. And we're going to do bath time because what I know is once you're in the bath time gets fun. And then what happens sometimes is you don't want to get out. So we can just do things sometimes that need to get done. And we don't always have to feel like doing them. And we can do them anyway, because
Uh,
that is a great life skill.
It is. And I heard that doing that actually strengthens some funny named part of your brain, but doing things that you don't want to do strengthens your brain. It grows your brain. I learned that about
Yeah.
going to the gym because I hate going to the gym. But once I leave, I'm so happy I went.
Right? Exercise is a big one for us adults. It's like, really, I have to go for a walk right now. It's a beautiful sunny day and I have to go out there and go for a walk. Yeah. And I don't know the funny part of the brain name off the tip of my head, but I know that it builds resilience. I know that it builds a realistic view of the world where I might not feel like getting up and putting my clothes on and going to work today to make money to feed my family. And I'm going to do it anyway. So sharing that with your child when they, and you might not initiate it, the bath that way in this example, but they may resist the bath. I don't want to have a bath today. And you can say, yeah, I get that. Sometimes I don't feel like bath time either. And we do it anyway. And if you change that tone that I often talk about, shift your tone, and you might have to draw deep from that well at at bedtime. And it's like, oh, here we go. And just draw that tone up and go, yeah, we do it anyway. Would you like bubbles tonight? Or would you like the tea set? What would you like in your bath tonight? And then you give them those choices, and then they get some empowerment over how the bath happens, not whether it happens, but how, what their choices are. So, in that, you shared the okay comment. Any phrase that we use, any sentence that we use, if you put the word or the phrase okay on the end, is that a word? What is that? Okay. If you put that on the end, it turns it into a question, right? Time to go to grandma's, okay? Time to leave the park now, okay? No, it's time to leave the park now. You could do 2 more climbs up and slide down the slide, or I could push you 3 pushes on the swing. It's time to leave the park soon. Don't put that okay on there unless you want a bigger battle. So don't make a question where you need to make a statement. Another one that I love is, are you hungry? That question can be problematic. You would think that it would just be super simple, that if a child is hungry, they can just say they're hungry or they're not hungry. Now, if that child is deeply engrossed in driving their train around the track and this voice comes into their world and says, are you hungry? From some other, planet somewhere, they might not answer, or they might go, nope. They might just, like they have no idea. They're not connected to whether they're hungry in this moment or not. They're deeply engrossed in what they're doing. So, one of the things that I have always loved to do around home, this doesn't necessarily work if you're out in the world, but it can. But anyway, is instead of asking, are you hungry? I just bring a plate of nutritious snacks when my living room has been covered in train tracks, like covered. You have to step carefully to avoid stepping on the track or the train or the, conductors. Anyway, I just bring a plate of snacks and I pop it down near where they're playing. And they just nibble and they eat, and all the food's gone. And I knew that they would be getting hungry based on the time of day, or I could tell that they were getting hungry especially if there's more than one child, based on how they're interacting and how their tone of voice might be changing, or their ability to play gently with each other might be changing. That is sometimes an indication of hunger. So just bring the food. Or if you don't want to feed them where they are, or if you're having something, and that's just finger food kind of snacks. If it's actually lunchtime, let's use those phrases again like, all right, lunch is on the table in 5 minutes. That means you get to drive your train around that track and you can guesstimate how many times it might take them. Two more times all the way around, and then bring them in for lunch on the track. So just avoiding questions that might get an answer that you don't want, and also avoiding questions that bring them out of what they're experiencing in the moment and insist that they get into their thinking brain when they're in their experiential brain. Children are masters of the experiential brain. I would rather learn how to do more of what they do in that regard
Yeah.
than try to pull them into our thinking brain world so much, right?
Yeah. Putting them in the box that we've been put in.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
One other
All
thing
right.
that
Mhm.
you brought up a few times is the 5 minutes, which I know it wasn't part of this episode, but I think that's a big one that I do a lot and I'm really aware of it. So I try to use um you can do that three more times
Yeah.
down the slide, two more times to do this, because I think you mentioned it once. Like we'll say 5 more minutes at the park, but we're caught in this conversation. So that 5 minutes can turn into 20 minutes quick. And they just have no idea what 5 minutes is. And they'll hit you back with the 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. And that's
When
just,
it's in their favor,
yeah.
they'll, Mama, I just want to play 5 more minutes before bed. I just want to play 5 more minutes. And yes, okay, good, because I did mention it here. 5 more minutes until lunch. That means you have
Yeah.
time to drive that train around 2 whole times around that big track. Yeah, I call it using time in a child aware zone kind of time. So whatever they're doing, you guesstimate. And I mean, honestly, we're not looking at our watch or our clock and setting a timer for 5 minutes. And when we're in a conversation with somebody, like if you're on the phone, I mean, I don't know, does this still happen, you guys, where we're all texting more? But when I was a young mama, we would have a phone that we picked up and put on our ear. And as soon as you would get on the phone, the children would be like, Mama, 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 and just need you and interrupting constantly. But you'd say 5 minutes. I'm just going to talk for 5 more minutes. And or just give me a minute. That's another one. Just give me a minute. Do
Mm-hmm.
any of your children say, just a minute, just a
Yes.
minute?
My daughter says it to me.
So I want you to know that they learn by example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you want to use a 5 minute thing, you can also set the timer on your phone and say, all right, what ringtone should we put on to indicate when the 5 minutes is done for
Right.
whatever it is that they're doing? Yeah.
So I have Alexas all over my house, of course. So,
Oh, right.
so
Of course.
we
I don't
say
even think Alexa in my brain.
we say, Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes. And then if we're taking a bath in 5 minutes, she knows and she's very willing. Once she hears Alexa go off, she's like, all right, it's bath time. Like she's she's good
Yeah.
with
And
that.
when I was originally teaching the parenting course that I taught like 35 years ago, I would say get an egg timer that was actually a timer that had salt and you would turn it upside or sand and you would turn it upside down and it would dribble through. So turn your timer or get a timer that's, a wind up timer at your stove for baking something. Now they're all digital, but
Yeah.
we would have a wind up timer. I remember you guys, this is just an aside, but it was just a sudden memory at my Emma's house. I, when you're little and you think that your house or your grandparents' house or somewhere is this huge, and then you grow up and it's like, whoa, this is a really small house.
Yeah.
She originally had a back door and a front door that were opposite each other. And it went through the kitchen, through the living room, and you could touch each door. And we would set the timer and see how many times we could touch each door, running back and forth and back and forth. And back and forth. I love timers. I love analog timers. I always have one.
That's cute.
So yeah, thank you for that. That's a great one. Is just to really bring it into time zones that are child friendly, child aware. Yeah. All right. So there you go. A few common questions to avoid. Remember, get that little okay off the end of your sentences. Make a statement when it's not actually a question. Let them know what's going on for you instead of the why did you do that or what were you thinking? Ooh, I got scared just now when I saw that happen. Let them know what's going on inside you and do your best not to go into the why questions when there's some big feelings happening because they need to be experiencing those big feelings for whatever reason. We come back to acknowledging, wow, there's some big feelings going on here. Okay, it really hurt when you scraped your knee. Yeah. Even though for you, you can see there's no blood, there's no broken bones, but for them, it really hurt in that moment. Just let it be a skin knee for your little one, and that's okay. All right.
Beautiful.
All good. Beautiful. All right, listener, we love you. Thanks for being here with us each week.
Okay, so to dive into my gems from this week's episode, we can start off with just acknowledging that when we are asking these questions like, why are you crying? Or why did you do that? Or what were you thinking? All we're doing is adding stress, irritation, and frustration. And if you think about what we really want when we are in this situation, we want to get out of the situation. We want calm. We don't want crying. We just want to solve the problem. And so why add to it by asking these questions? I know why, because it was probably said to us when we were little, or it probably happens in our relationships. But if we think about what we really want out of this situation, we're not going to get there by asking these questions. We're just adding frustration and anger and stress to our kids. And number 2 is don't ask a question when you mean to make a statement. This is me. I always say okay. And so if it's not a question, make a statement. Because if we are asking the question, we need to be willing to accept their answer. And if you're not willing to accept the answer, we're just adding more frustration for ourselves, the parents. So for me, that looks like just deleting the okay, which I'm practicing. And lastly is give them the information. This will model healthy communication. And instead of asking, why would you do that? We can just give them the information. That scared me. That looks very dangerous. So we don't stick our pens or pencils into things that are moving because it can be dangerous. And if we want healthy communication from our kids, the best way they're going to learn that is from us modeling it for them. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again next week as kind of like a part 3 to this series. We hope you're enjoying it. We hope that you don't feel shame because that's not what we want. We just want you to learn. And as we always say, as you know better, you can do better. I have been learning a lot and I have a lot of work to do. So we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
With you, oh how I love to be with you. I do. your time.